Live, local, social. It's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV. Hello, friends and neighbors. Welcome to the Splash Live. I'm your host, Jake Schaff, bringing you all of the latest news and stories from right here in Greater West Bloomfield. Recently in West Bloomfield, business professionals, community leaders, and aspiring entrepreneurs were brought together for the annual Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce Leadership Luncheon, a chance for insightful conversations on leadership, media, and business innovation. Our own Jonathan Montgomery was at the event and has the story.
Knowledge was on the menu at the 2026 Greater West Bloomfield Leadership Luncheon. Now, this was more than just a networking event, but a masterclass of business ideas and strategy. And here's some of the things that entrepreneurs at this event took away.
Events like this allows you to see the challenges that are resulting from AI from other people's perspectives. And as an entrepreneur, the first thing that you need to understand is you are not alone, and that if you want to be successful, you need to be able to connect with others. So events like this gives you the opportunity to connect with others, to hear their perspectives across industries, right? And it better informs your ability to project where you need to go in your own craft.
Took away how to get the most out of your employees and your staff by really knowing the direction of your practice. I'm a big Dan Campbell fan, so when you brought that up, I use Dan Campbell as an analogy all the time. If you can hone in on what you want and having people who are passionate, now all you need to do is show up to work and do the best you can. And that's all I want to be, is make sure that we get the best out of everybody, make sure that everybody is happy and felt like they're taken care of. And that's my goal for the day.
Well, certainly to talk about AI, right? So most of us in business are using it. Most people are using it. But for business, you have to use it for research, for business plans, for all different kinds of things. So realizing that that really is normal and actually advantageous and everybody else is doing it, then that was actually kind of confirming that we're doing the right thing.
Luncheons like these are great for the community. These business leaders are more than excited to take the information that they learn to better their business and better their community. For Civic Center TV, I'm Jonathan Montgomery.
It's great to see so many business officials and entrepreneurs sharing tips and learning lessons at this event and learning from the event's prolific speakers. Crane Communications CEO and President Casey Crane and Fox 2 News host Roop Raj. Our own Tyler Kieft had the opportunity to speak with Roop Raj after the event to discuss the role of local businesses in the Metro Detroit economy.
Tyler Kieft with Civic Center TV, along with a man who needs no introduction in the television world, Roop Raj from Fox 2, host of the Pulse and their evening news anchor. Roop, today you and Casey Crane had a chance to speak to so many business owners here in Greater West Bloomfield. We're in a boom in the Detroit economy. Metro Detroit's coming back along with it. How do communities like Greater West Bloomfield play into that resurgence and success?
Well, I think we have to look at ourselves without boundaries. I think we oftentimes say the suburbs are over there, the city's over here. We're all one great region. So when you look at Southeast Michigan as one engine and one machine, and then you look at all the suburbs as a part of that machine, it's one engine, not separate ones. And I think for so many years, because of the culture of our community, it was as though we're talking about suburbs versus the city. I think we have to, and we have, started to reframe it to say, look, this is one region. When West Bloomfield does well, Troy does well. When Troy does well, Southfield does well. We together have to do well. We are Greater Detroit together. And kind of the heart of that is Detroit. And when Detroit does well, all of us benefit from that.
Something that you had mentioned too during your speech and as you were taking Q&A from the audience is building connections plays such a huge role in that, especially in a world today where we're so widely connected through social media. How important is it for these individual businesses between each other and customer to business that they maintain those lines of communication and build those true interpersonal relationships?
I think they're really important. I think you used a really smart few words there. You said true personal connection, right? Because I think when we connect with people on social media and we're interacting and you're scrolling and going through different people, we think we're actually socializing, when in fact social media is kind of anti-social. You're sitting at home alone talking to people who you don't know and can't even get a feel for. I mean, you and I are talking right now on camera, and you get a feel for the person I am, I get a feel for the person you are, and that's good. because now I can make a decision about what I think about you. But if I just exchange text messages on social media with someone, you really don't know. I think it's really important to have those authentic connections where you can have the energy of another person in the room and then kind of figure out, hey, how do we work together? What are you doing that I can help you with? And vice versa. And that's how teams are made. And then I may say, maybe I'm not someone who I can help you, but hey, I know my wife's business. She would love to have the support that you have. And that's how you make those connections. I think we have to start going back to that. Doesn't mean we have to get rid of social media. We live in a society where it's always either or. What about and, right? We could do social media, then connect with those people and say, let's meet for coffee. So that would be my suggestion.
A community like Greater West Bloomfield, it is so close-knit. Everybody does seem to still know each other, even in a community that's getting so much larger. And in a traditional newsroom, so much of what we hear about is some of the doom and the gloom. But what can people learn from communities like West Bloomfield or others where we do have those stories still of people coming together, whether it's a business helping another business, a business helping somebody in need in the community, and what that means to growing Metro Detroit now and in the future?
Well, I think you have to, when good things are happening, people say, how come you didn't report on it? Why didn't we hear about it? We didn't tell us about it. One of the biggest things I think I would advise anyone who's watching is, if you have something great happening in your community, tell us about it. We can't just know what's going on. You know, sadly, as you kind of astutely pointed out, a car accident or something that shouldn't have happened in a parking lot of a store or what have you, we're going to find out about it because police are putting out press releases saying this thing happened, it wasn't so great, and we're looking for the person who's responsible. But if you're not in a good news situation putting out a release to tell us about it, how can we know? And so I would advise everyone who's watching, think about what is your story? What makes your business unique? And what is the story that people in Greater Detroit can learn about? Put that together and pitch it to a reporter at Channel 247, Detroit Free Press, Cranes, and figure it out and get it out there.
There may not be a better example of that, Roop, than recently one of the most horrific days we've ever had here, perhaps ever, in Greater West Bloomfield when there was the attack at Temple Israel. One thing we did see that's right along the sense of that, a business in our community, Shenandoah Country Club, stepping up and reaching out that helping hand to their neighbors, not only to Temple Israel, but the wider community. What does that truly mean from a business to a community, and just from a communication standpoint, when a business like that is operating in that time and frame immediately switches to, this is about my town?
I think it shows the heart of this great community. My wife Julie and I lived in West Bloomfield when we first moved from New Orleans to Detroit. This was our home. It doesn't surprise me at all that a Chaldean American-owned business, the Shenandoah Country Club, opened up its doors to allow Jewish brothers and sisters to have prayer services and a safe place to eat, have the kids play, have a place to be during such a horrific time. It doesn't surprise me, but it warms my heart. And it's a story we told on our air over and over again on the Pulse and on our newscast, because that is good news. And out of great darkness comes light. And in this community, we see it shining brighter than ever before. The people of West Bloomfield, they weren't going to stand for letting the bad guys put a damper on the spirit of a great community that is largely supported by a huge Jewish American population that we are so proud as a Hindu American just to say, these are our brothers and sisters who live here. What can we all do to help and be together? And I think that's what we saw on that day.
One last thing, Roop. You, on a daily basis, are putting leaders to task. A lot of what you talked about with Casey Crane today was leadership in its most successful level. What Dan Gilbert's been able to do with his businesses in Detroit, what Dan Campbell has been able to do with the Detroit Lions, and how that translates. Yeah, exactly. And what that translates to our local businesses, and a lot of what you do is putting our leaders in government to task on that at that rate as we're getting ready for a gubernatorial election. As people have issues on a local level here in West Bloomfield, Kegel Harbor, Sylvan Lake, and Orchard Lake, what message should our leaders be taking from that greater involvement we have today, the greater access to information that our residents have, and what they're saying truly is what they need in their community?
I think the biggest thing, it goes back to how we started our conversation, you can't govern through social media. Don't think that because you tweeted or Facebooked or Instagrammed your message to the population that that's enough. Showing up and being a part of the community when it matters most, not during hard times and bad times, during good times, to explain something, what's going on, to be accessible, not through social media alone, but through everyday meetings. I think these gubernatorial candidates have a responsibility to show up on the Pulse and be on this debate. It's not because, look, we're not like making money off of this. We believe as journalists, it's the most critical thing to have access to politicians. There was a time that they had to show up at a debate stage, and now they say, no, I'm going to go ahead and campaign through social media. No, you have to show up and answer questions, and I think they owe that to journalists, but they certainly owe that to constituents, and I hope they'll understand that just tweeting away on your phone isn't enough. You have to be present in the community. And by the way, I think most of them are, and they do a great job doing that.
And leaders on the local level too, they get involved when they see a problem and they say, look, it's my chance now to get involved and run for office and be able to make some of those changes themselves. Roop, really appreciate your time today and your message to our community.
What a pleasure. Hey, it was a pleasure, and always love coming back to West Bloomfield. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Roop Raj from Civic Center TV. You can see his entire conversation with Casey Crane from today's Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce Leadership Luncheon. Join us on civiccentertv.com.
A great conversation between Tyler Kieft and Roop Raj, and so much powerful stuff to take away from this incredible leadership luncheon that took place in West Bloomfield. So we appreciate Tyler and Jonathan for going out and getting that coverage all right here on Civic Center TV. On Thursday, May 14th, Soul Studio will be unveiling their latest art exhibition, You Matter. You Matter is a multidisciplinary exhibition centered on celebrating individuality, identity, and lived experience. Each piece reflects the artist's personal story, drawing from their memories, passions, perspectives, and creative instincts. Here to tell us more about the exhibition is Kate Spademan, a facilitating artist with the Friendship Circle. Kate, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Of course, always love hearing about these great art projects that are coming to Soul Studio in West Bloomfield. What's the inspiration behind the You Matter exhibition?
Yeah, well, when we look at just the amount of artists that we serve, we see that we have so many different backstories, backgrounds, people who come from all walk of life and have very different, unique, distinctive styles. So we really wanted to hone in on that for this showcase and really show that whatever you come from, you matter.
That's absolutely right. Now, Soul Studio has done several art exhibitions throughout the years. How does this one differ from others that you've been a part of in the past?
Well, I am biased. I think that all of our artwork we show in our gallery is gorgeous. But in this show in particular, every single piece has a really beautiful background. Every piece really means something personal to each artist. So there's this level of depth that maybe you haven't seen in some of our previous work. And our artists really go bold and have such big personalities and so much character in all of their artwork that we're displaying.
I'd imagine so. It sounds like there's some very deep personal messages that come from these art pieces that are going to be on display. How do the pieces collectively tell a larger story while still remaining deeply personal?
Yeah, so when you look at the thing as a collection, you see all these really bold, bright, colorful statement pieces. But then you look at each piece individually and you see like this whole other story, like places that people have been, places people have grown up, or figures in their lives that our artists idolize. And so like as a whole, you get something that is so full of personality and creativity, but then you get to know each artist individually when you look at those pieces.
You can tell a lot about somebody when you see an art piece like this, and you can really kind of look into their soul a little bit and kind of understand their creative process that much more. Now, I would imagine with telling some of these stories, some might be a bit more personal than others. Maybe there's a bit of hesitation with showcasing yourself in this way. How do you guide or support artists in expressing such personal stories?
Yeah, when we bridge the conversation with our artists, we talk to them about the theme, we talk to them kind of about what we're imagining, and then we identify, like, when you think about yourself, what are some memories that really pop up? Or are there people in your life that you really idolize or really inspire you? And then we kind of hone in on those qualities. And from there, our artists really take it and run with it. It is so artist-led at that point. And we're really there to support them in, like, what mediums might work best for their piece, or what color palettes. And some of them are really deep and personal pieces. Some of them are also really lighthearted, beautiful pieces about like pets or parents or what have you. So it really ranges, and we're just there to support and kind of guide as the artist creates their work.
It sounds like there's many different interpretations of the theme of this show, You Matter. What truly stands out to you about the way artists have interpreted the theme?
It's so interesting to me how artists run in so many different directions. Some of them go in a really personal route, and they talk about experiences that they've had, or other people, again, talk about, people they idolize. But it's always so interesting to see how the artist interprets the theme, and how sometimes they're really realistic portrayals of moments in their life, and sometimes they're really abstract and more to do with the senses. So just the different directions that each artist takes with it is so fascinating to watch.
Sounds like it, and I can't wait to see all these amazing pieces on display. For those just joining us on the Splash Live, I'm talking with Kate Spademan, a facilitating artist with the Friendship Circle in West Bloomfield, talking about the brand new art exhibition that's going to be opening up in just a couple weeks, You Matter, which will be unveiling at Soul Studio. Now, Kate, there's going to be a lot of different types of art on display at this event. Do you maybe have an example or a piece or story that really captures the spirit of this exhibit?
Yes, I brought it with me. I'm so glad you asked. This is one of, I love all of the artwork, but this one is like so perfect for this show. We have an artist named Maya, who, if you know Maya, she absolutely adores her dog Coco. And Coco comes into the studio on occasion. We get to pet Coco, and she's always so excited and so friendly. But I have never seen Maya do a piece inspired by her dog. And so she created this just gorgeous little felted portrait of her baby, and it's so bright and so full of personality, and so you really get a sense of who Maya is and what's important to her with this piece. So it's just like the perfect piece to show you what the show is all about.
You're absolutely right, and that piece is adorable. I'm sure it's just as cute as the real Coco. But this event, I should clarify, it's not just for the artists who are going to be showcasing all of these personal pieces. It's also going to be for the visitors who stop by and to see these powerful pieces firsthand. What do you hope visitors feel or take away after experiencing the exhibition of You Matter?
I hope that you come in and you see a couple of pieces that really resonate with you, and you say like, oh, I love that thing, or oh, I've been to that place, and you realize that you have more in common with our artists than you have differences.
That's perfect. It really brings a sense of unity throughout the community, as so many things do throughout Greater West Bloomfield. I got a few more questions for you, Kate. In what ways does this exhibit maybe create a sense of affirmation and belonging?
Yeah, it goes right back to the artwork being artist-led. So pretty much like once we bridge that topic with our artists, they can go in any direction, with any medium, with any kind of like style they want to go in. And that means that you get artists who really hone in on niche topics that are really important to them, or maybe places you've never been to. And so like, we're able to express anything that our artist wants to create. And that really creates a sense of belonging and affirmation that you are important, your experiences are valued, and you're seen.
That's right, making everybody feel seen and making everybody feel welcome throughout the community. Last question, Kate, above all else, what message do you hope resonates with people long after they leave the gallery and they leave Soul Studio?
I hope you say that I am seen, I am heard, and that I have a lot more in common with the people around me than I might think.
Perfect. And there's going to be many ways to connect with these artists and to see their stories firsthand. I can't wait to see it. Kate, thank you so much for joining us today here on the Splash Live.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. Once again, the You Matter art exhibition is going to be unveiled on Thursday, May 14th at Soul Studio. Hope to see a lot of people stopping by and seeing this amazing art firsthand. Oakland 80 is a county-wide effort focused on ensuring that 80% of working-age adults in Oakland County earn a post-secondary degree or credential by the year 2030. Opening doors to stronger career pathways and long-term economic stability. The initiative continues to make a measurable impact with more than 1,600 individuals in 2025 receiving critical support services through Oakland County, Michigan Works to help them pursue and complete their educational goals. Oakland 80 Administrator Rana Al-Igo spoke with us on The Splash recently to tell us more. Rana Al-Igo, thank you so much for joining us today, Rana.
Thank you, Jake, for having me. I'm a pleasure.
Of course, really cool initiative. Love talking about this sort of stuff on The Splash. How did Oakland 80 originate and how has it grown over its run?
Oakland 80, as you said, is an initiative spearheaded by our Oakland County Executive, David Coulter, that sets a goal for 80% of our residents to earn some type of degree or credential by the year 2030. It started in 2020 with several key organizations, including Oakland Schools, Oakland University, Oakland Community College, along with partners in skilled trades, in labor, adult education, nonprofits. And since then, we've grown to over 75 different organizations at the table working with us. We've also benefited at Oakland 80 through bipartisan support from our Board of Commissioners, who've put some dedicated funds behind this initiative to help make sure residents have the support that they need to be successful.
That is amazing that all these great resources are available for these people throughout Oakland County to help them with their goals. Now, how do Oakland 80 career and education navigators work with both students and adults to guide their career paths?
The navigators start by working with individuals who are really interested in inventorying their skills, their abilities, their interests and aptitudes, and sort of figuring out what their career aspirations are. They'll take, where they're at currently and what their long-term goals are and sort of talk through some of the gaps that they might have. If education is needed, maybe a short-term credential or a longer-term degree, they'll work with those individuals to sort of determine where in our area are there opportunities for upskilling or for training. They'll actually help folks apply for different opportunities. We'll help them complete and look for scholarships or look for resources in the community. So it's a very hands-on, one-on-one approach that we take with individuals. And then we don't just get them to the path. We also work with them throughout the course of them working on whatever it is that they're hoping to pursue so that they're successful in landing those great careers.
That's amazing. Wonderful processes for every single individual. Now, I would imagine going back to school, getting a second credential like this, it can be a challenging process. There can be a lot of barriers in the way to hinder someone's progress. What are some of the most common barriers people face when trying to further their education, and how does Oakland 80 help to overcome them?
Common barriers, as you can imagine, include sort of the cost of education, right? We have this perception that it's very costly and folks might fall into debt if they pursue higher education. So not many folks know about some of the great resources that are available, like the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. We have a community college guarantee here in Michigan for recent high school graduates. We also have Michigan Reconnect for adults that are aged 25 and older who may not already have a degree. And so we help individuals sort of determine what resources are there available in the community if tuition is a barrier for them, and help them access some of the great resources that we have. Other common barriers that we see actually are more like mental or emotional. Folks that maybe have stopped out or dropped out of school, maybe they had a bad experience their first go around, especially older adults who may have never finished. And so we help them sort of address some of those mental barriers or emotional barriers that they're feeling, and help be that motivation that they might need to pursue post-secondary educational opportunities.
Motivation is very important, and it's great that you're helping in any way that you possibly can. Rana, can you share maybe some of the success stories of individuals whose lives have been transformed through something like Oakland 80?
Sure. Through the course of Oakland 80, we've helped thousands and thousands of residents. With just career and education navigator services, we've served about 8,000 Oakland County residents, sort of again with that motivational piece and that emotional support. We've also provided 20,000 one-on-one services to individuals. So again, we're applying for schools, we're looking for scholarship, we're helping them complete applications like the free application for federal student aid that opens up opportunities for them. We've also helped folks with what we call supportive services. So if individuals are in an emergency situation and they can't afford the cost of books or materials, in some cases, they can't afford housing or utilities, we can step in with some of our resources and help with those emergency funds. And through those services and supports, we've been able to help about 4,000 residents. This includes about 400 residents just in the West Bloomfield area alone that we've helped with navigator services and Oakland 80 supportive services. So we see folks from across the board. Sometimes they're new to the post-secondary education world. Sometimes they're transitioning. We have experienced a lot of folks, especially during the COVID years, want to transition from their employment and move on to a different field. And so those are some of the things that we've done. We've helped folks in their last year of school, maybe avoid eviction. We recently helped the Oakland University student in that situation that lived in Pontiac. We've helped individuals pay for, maybe they have a past due balance on their educational bill and they just can't afford to pay that, and they're eligible for some of these great free resources moving forward, but that past debt is preventing them from continuing. And so we've helped with things like that for our residents here in Oakland County.
Wow, quite a lot of success stories, and it's great to hear of so much that has happened even right here in West Bloomfield. That's incredible. For those just joining us on the Splash Live, I'm talking with Oakland 80 Administrator Rana Al-Igo, talking about Oakland 80 and its county-wide effort to help 80% of working age adults in Oakland County earn a post-secondary degree or credential by the year 2030. And you guys have already made such a big impact with this. How does the initiative help residents who may be changing careers later on in their life?
Again, we will really work with individuals on a very one-on-one basis. We'll engage with them in terms of where they're at currently, what their future career aspirations are, sort of figure out, do they have the background needed to achieve some of those great paying careers and great paying jobs, and then work with them to build a plan, whether it involves education, short-term credentials, short-term training. In some cases, they just might need practice interviewing or a little bit help, scanning for some of the jobs that are available in the community. We have virtual workshops that folks can attend. They're free, they're open to the public. And those are great resources as well for folks that maybe don't feel like they're ready for a one-on-one support, but want to sort of gauge where they're at currently. And so just a lot of great resources for folks. We really want to make sure that they understand that they can leverage some of their transferable skills if they've got, experience in one field, but are really interested in pursuing other careers. There's a lot of great opportunity out there for folks that, again, maybe just need a class, maybe they just need a credential or a certification or just some coaching to move on to that next step for them.
That's amazing, and it helps that you've got resources available for people going at pretty much any speed, whether they're ready to jump right into things or they want to just ease into the process a little bit slowly. Now, we said 80% by 2030. That was the goal. What progress has been made so far towards that 80%, would you say, right now for 2026?
Yeah, that's a great question. When we started, we were at about 61%. And our executive set a really ambitious goal of 80%. We had some hiccups with COVID and sort of the delay with that, but we're right on track. We're almost at 70%, so about halfway to our goal. And so we're really excited. We're really excited for what's next over the next, couple years. Those next 4 years we know are going to be hard, but we're really looking forward to helping as many people as we can reach their educational attainment goals and hit that 80% mark in a couple of years here.
Wonderful. Congratulations with that. I got a couple more questions, Rana, before we wrap things up. How would you say Oakland 80 is contributing to economic growth and stability within Oakland County as a whole?
It's a great question. We do this work obviously because we want families to have economic self-sufficiency and be strong. We know there's a strong correlation between educational attainment and sort of earnings for individuals, but also earnings in the community. So, thinking through how we measure individual success, but community success as well, a lot of those are tied back to educational attainment. We know folks with higher education generally earn higher wages. We know that they're less likely to be unemployed, even during times of economic downturn. And so when we measure the state of our economy here in Oakland County, we really do look at some of those indicators related to to educational attainment. Just yesterday, Oakland County released its economic forecast. And when we look at how we compare ourselves to counties across the country, a lot of those indicators are tied back to jobs, they're tied back to earnings, and tied back to education.
Wonderful, and that's so great to hear of everything that Oakland 80 has been accomplishing all throughout the years. Last question, Rana, for residents who may be interested in getting involved, what is the first step to connecting with Oakland 80 resources?
I'd say the first step for any resident is to really reach out to us. If you're comfortable looking online, oakland80.com is our website. We've got great resources there. If you want to give us a call, we have a hotline, a toll-free hotline, 888-559-4360. Reach out to one of our navigators. They'll get you on the right track, and they'll go at your pace, really, and help you determine what your next step might be.
That's the place to go. We want to see Oakland 80 accomplish their 80% goal within the next few years, and they can do it with your help. Rana, thank you so much for joining us today here on The Splash Live.
Thank you, Jake. Appreciate it.
Helping so many people throughout Oakland County and Greater West Bloomfield with their continued education. We really appreciate Rana for taking the time to talk with us here on The Splash Live all about Oakland 80. West Bloomfield Parks is hosting its annual native plant sale, encouraging residents to support local ecosystems through sustainable landscaping. The event takes place on Saturday, May 16th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Marshbank Park, where pre-ordered plants will be available for pickup, and residents can pre-order plants online up until May 8th, ensuring access to the widest selection before items sell out. Joining us on The Splash to tell us more is West Bloomfield Parks naturalist Lauren Azuri. Lauren, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Jake.
Of course, another great project going on throughout West Bloomfield, spreading that spring feeling and spreading all these wonderful plants all throughout the community. Can you tell us about the native plant sale and what residents can expect this year?
Yeah, it's that time of year. We all want to get out in the sunshine, maybe get our hands in the dirt a little bit. So our native plant sale, feeds that spring fever. So hopefully lots of people are excited to get into their gardens and help out nature. So our native plant sale has two options. There is a pre-order online option, which gives you time to select, do some research, see some pictures, and order in advance. So the pre-window opening is April 28th. So it's already started. People have already been shopping through May 8th. So online ordering ends May 8th. But don't worry, if online ordering isn't for you and you just want to come peruse and look around and ask questions, we are also available to shop the day of for on-site sales. So May 16th, come to Marshbank Park and look at all the pretty little baby plants and ask questions. We have our naturalist team as well as Angela from East Michigan Natives there. Wealth of knowledge. So if you even just want to come and chat and learn a thing or two about why natives are important and what might work for you, you can always just stop by the native plant sale the day of on May 16th and look around.
Wonderful. And yeah, we've been talking a lot about the spring transition on the show in the past few weeks and all the wonderful flowers that are starting to come into bloom throughout the community. Why has this event become such an important part of the West Bloomfield Parks calendar over the years?
Yeah, it attracts a variety of audiences. So we love to see those that already know about natives, are really passionate about using them in their gardens, and are looking for like a very specific species that's hard to find, a certain flower that they've been wanting in their garden. But then it also is great for those that are new to native gardening. Maybe they've gardened with perennials or typical greenhouses, and they're learning why natives are important to our ecosystem and great for our pollinators. They're easier to maintain usually, so they are getting piqued about this. They're like, why is native good? Why do I want to go to this native plant sale versus a regular greenhouse? So it is nice, and it's become definitely a tradition. We've done it for many years in a row, and it's great to see the very seasoned veteran gardener to the very new gardener. And sometimes people bring their kiddos too, so they get to pick out plants, and it can be a family event as well. So it also supports nature education in West Bloomfield. So partnering with East Michigan Natives, we share the profits of the plant sale, and that goes to supporting our animal ambassadors as well as nature education. So we do appreciate the community always coming out and wanting to support. We appreciate that a lot.
Wow, so many benefits from helping out with this incredible sale that happens every year. Now, I'm curious, what types of plants, trees, shrubs, flowers, what's available this year for Greater West Bloomfield residents to check out?
One of the main focuses and new offering this year is the kits. So it offers a flat bed of plants, 32 of them, and they're pre-made by Angela, who is a horticulturist and knows a lot about native plants at her East Michigan Native. She put these kits together, so it makes life easy for you. There's a butterfly garden kit, there's a grasses kit, a pollinator kit. So if you're not sure, this is a great variety for your garden. And it has different blooms throughout the season. So you don't have to do all the thinking. It has things that bloom in early spring, things that are blooming later in the summer, things that bloom through fall. So it's got a great variety of plants in the kits, and they're all already put together for you. So that's a new option this year, as well as a whole section of native grasses and many, many different varieties of wildflowers.
Wow, quite a lot for people to check out. And I love that you're also trying to help out people who maybe are starting a garden for the very first time. Maybe they're not used to something like this before, and they're looking to create their own garden and create their own flower bed to make the community that much more beautiful. How do you help residents choose plants that maybe fit their specific yard conditions?
Yeah, so the phrase in the garden world or in the, the flower world is right plant, right place. So you do need to know a little bit before you come to us. You need to know what your sun conditions are. So are we looking for something in full sun, part sun, or shade? All the plants are labeled. So every title when you're shopping, the name of the plant will be there. And then right next to it will be if it's sun, part sun, or shade. So definitely spend some time in your garden before choosing the plants. Go look outside throughout the day and see what the light it's bringing, because that'll be your first part of choosing plants. And then think about your soil. Is it a really wet area? So these rainy days we've been having, where is everything puddling up? Where is all the water being held? Put the wet loving plants there. And where is it really dry? Put our dry loving plants there. And those are all labeled with soil wet or dry as well. So start to know your sun, start to know your soil, and then of course ask lots of questions. We're happy to help. Angela and I and our other naturalist team will be at the sale. And you can always contact us on the website as well, and we can make some recommendations. But also the fun thing about gardening is it's an experiment. So if it's a new plant you've never had before, just, you can give it a try. Absolutely. I do that all the time. And sometimes I think, oh, that turned out great, and look how it's flourishing. And then sometimes I have to buy another one to replace it because it didn't work that year. But that's part of the fun and part of gardening. So definitely try new things. There's a variety of plants. For instance, milkweed. Everyone thinks of milkweed as a native plant, and it's great for our butterflies, but common milkweed can be tall and not great for a typical yard garden. So definitely look at some of the options we have that are smaller, different milkweed varieties that our butterflies and monarchs still really benefit from, but might be better for your garden in your front yard.
Wonderful. It's such a wealth of knowledge available right here in Greater West Bloomfield. Lauren Azuri, West Bloomfield Parks naturalist, is joining us on the Splash Live right now, talking about this year's native plant sale. Pre-orders are available up until May 8th, and there will be the in-person pre-sale pickup that's going to be taking place on Saturday, May 16th. Now, Lauren, why are native plants so important for our local ecosystem?
I'm so glad you asked that, because I'm sure lots of people are curious about that. Why are they different than what you get from your typical greenhouse? So a couple things from your typical greenhouse. They do use pesticides. So if you're going to your greenhouse and it says, oh, there's a native section, do know that it's not a true native. So they might be a cultivar. So greenhouse horticulturists sometimes like to combine things to have a prettier bloom for your yard, or something that might be more appealing to a front yard. And so the ones at greenhouses sometimes are cultivars, and they've been adjusted and changed. And our bees and our butterflies cannot benefit from those changes. They can't feed on them. There's not as much nectar on them. They don't see them as well. So if we change the color of a plant, the UV spectrum that bees and butterflies can see is very different. And so they need the colors of the native plants that they've adjusted to over millions of years. That's how evolution works. So if you are really trying to benefit our bees and butterflies, buying from a true native grower like we partner with is the best. And you'll see much more butterflies and much more bees and things visiting your garden if you do a true native. So also true native growers do not use pesticides. So we're limiting a lot of chemicals that go into our environment and that actually negatively affect our bees and butterflies.
Wow, so this is very informative. A lot of great information. Sounds like there's a big environmental difference that these native plants add to a yard to really make such a difference.
Absolutely. And there's some perks for us too. So as growers, if you're picking a native plant, it is adjusted to our Michigan environment. And our native growers actually are doing genotypes in our area, so only in greater West Bloomfield area, greater Detroit area. So think about like if you lived in the UP, you'd want seeds that got hardy and grew in the UP because they're used to those shorter summers and longer winters. So native growers, super local, actually makes your plants easier to grow. So you're not adding fertilizer as much and you're not babying them as much and watering them as much because they're used to our local conditions and have evolved here over the years. So planting native for people, it makes our gardening a little easier. I'm not saying it's not maintenance free. You still have to weed your garden. You still have to pull things back, but it does reduce the use of fertilizer and they are a little hardier in our environment here.
That's amazing, and I can't wait for so many people to come by to get these plants, to plant them in their own gardens, and to watch them bloom over the wonderful summer months that we have ahead. Lauren, last question before we wrap things up. What are some simple tips to help these plants thrive once they're in the ground, and so that we can keep them around?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, know your space. So know your sun and shade and know your soil. But keeping them in batches is really great. So if you need ground cover, think of some good ground cover, like our wild strawberries. Anything you can do to limit the empty soil. So if you have open soil in your garden, that's how the weeds get in. That's how the plants that we don't want get in. So if you fill it with natives, it's much more maintenance free. And so think about different lengths. So think about the ones that grow low, ones that grow medium height, and then the ones that grow really tall, so that you can have some variety in your garden, but as well as keeping the weeds at bay.
Wonderful. All great information, and hope to see a lot of these flowers out as you're driving along the community. We see a lot of these flowers coming into bloom everywhere you look. Lauren, thank you so much for joining us today here on the Splash Live.
Thanks. I hope to see lots of you shopping and getting out in your gardens.
Of course. Once again, the West Bloomfield Park's native plant sale is currently underway. Pre-orders are available until May 8th. And then the in-person pickup is going to be on Saturday, May 16th at Marshbank Park from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. The lacrosse program at West Bloomfield High School continues to grow as a competitive and community-driven team sport, emphasizing both athletic excellence and character development. Players are committed to building strong fundamentals, teamwork, and discipline while competing at a high level against regional opponents. Jennifer Gulati, the youth coordinator for boys and girls lacrosse at West Bloomfield High School, joined us on The Splash recently to share all of the benefits.
Jennifer, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Happy to have you on to talk about lacrosse. It's a growing sport both for the boys and the girls. Certainly has been much more embraced in recent years at West Bloomfield High School. In your experience interacting with these students, both on the boys and the girls team, what do you believe maybe is the catalyst or has been the catalyst for that growing interest in lacrosse for Lakers?
It's a great sport because it combines the aspects of many other games. In fact, basketball was invented by a lacrosse player. So if kids are playing basketball, they already know most of the elements of lacrosse. It combines hockey, soccer, basketball, and in boys, because there's more physicality, you're going to see more like football and wrestling as well. It's a great sport for kids of all shapes and sizes. You don't necessarily have to be the biggest or the tallest or the strongest to be great at it, unlike some other sports. So it's a great sport for kids of all shapes and sizes to come out and play, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, kids have so much fun playing lacrosse, and you find that players that get interested in it and play it for a little while, they become super passionate about it, much like you see from those that play hockey or those that are basketball players. Once they dive into it, whether they have a high level of skill, they see themselves as someone that can play at the collegiate or even the professional level or not, they tend to just dive right into it. What about this sport do you believe makes kids go from maybe I'll dip my toe in the water to being like, I can't get enough of playing lacrosse?
We have one kid that's a West Bloomfield student who he lost 9th grade because of the COVID year. He was a soccer player, played some other sports. He started playing lacrosse as a 10th grader. Now he's playing D1 in New York. It's just just fun. I mean, and the opportunities, especially for kids to play from, it's the #1 sport for boys, #2 for girls to play from high school to college and usually the ratio, it's about 14 to 15%, depending on the year that kids get to play in college from high school. Every other sport other than hockey is single digits. Yeah. So it offers a lot more higher level opportunities for kids to play at the collegiate level.
And that's a real draw for people to come to the sport and to get their kids into the sport, certainly for the kids that want an opportunity to play sports at the collegiate level or pursue sports further. This is something they can really embrace. And as you said, Jennifer, it's one of those sports that combines so many elements of so many different sports. And we find often that we have these kids that are really skilled in one area of maybe soccer, one area of field hockey, one area of football, and then they're able to combine all those different aspects to be able to be really strong lacrosse players. But beyond that, the game teaches them so much on both a physical and a mental side. What are some of those benefits that you really see stand out with these high school athletes at West Bloomfield, both on the boys and the girls lacrosse teams?
From the physical aspect, you've got running, you've got speed, you've got agility. And like I said, the stick work, so you don't have to necessarily be the best athlete on the field, but if you spend time working on your stick work, you can be the best on the team. But the mental aspect is just as much or more important because, number one, as kids, you're part of something bigger than yourself. So you get the reward of working as a team. And when kids help build themselves up and work together, there's so many mental benefits on that. The other thing is there's lifelong friendships that are developed from playing the sports. And then the third thing is which all parents will kind of appreciate, less screen time. We get these kids outside running around and having fun and getting those endorphins going and enjoying themselves.
And it takes so much effort and so much focus to be able to build some of those skills, that teamwork, because you're moving in so many various spaces on your field. You got to be able to kind of see a wider range and navigate yourself and your teammates through it. Those are great lessons for any sport really that a kid may be playing beyond lacrosse, and certainly for them to get those mental aspects and build those synapses that help them far beyond the lacrosse field. Jennifer Galati is with us, the youth coordinator for West Bloomfield High School boys and girls lacrosse. So much enthusiasm behind this sport. It is growing like gangbusters at West Bloomfield High School and so many other schools throughout the local area. With that, Jennifer, comes a need for increased fundraising. It helps to build some of these team programs that we see through so many other sports that take a sport from being a developing sport with momentum to really taking the skills and the abilities and the training to the next level. At West Bloomfield High School, how does fundraising from the community impact our lacrosse teams?
Well, so you have to keep in mind that this year, 2026, was the first year that both the boys team and the girls high school teams became actually school-sponsored sports. Yeah. Until that time, the boys independently did their own fundraising at the high school level, and the girls did their fundraising independently at the high school. And being 100% self-funded, the fees sometimes forced families to not be able to play because of the cost. And girls, the equipment is less. Boys, if you're starting new as a high school player, buying all new equipment is going to cost you about between $750 and $850 to be able to play. That's a lot for families to have to stomach, especially if they don't know if their child is going to fall in love with the sport. So what my organization is, West Bloomfield Lacrosse. We became a 501c3. So we help as more as a youth coordinator, and we're doing fundraising to get younger kids started in the program. So our fundraising helps with keeping costs down for all families. So we buy the field equipment, all the supplies to run the games, the uniforms for the kids, help pay for coaching and refs. So we can take what's considered an expensive sport and make it less expensive. But the bigger piece of the West Bloomfield Lacrosse and the 501c3 is we've been grant writing. And with the grant writing, we've received a bunch of equipment, or we've worked to get some equipment. So pretty much every boy youth player that is playing for West Bloomfield or signed up with West Bloomfield Lacrosse has at least one piece of equipment that was provided by the grants, from cleats, helmets, chest pads, gloves. And the girls program, just about everybody received cleats. And we also gave cleats to the high school girls program. And the boys have received 5 brand new helmets, 5 chest pads, as well as 4 sets of used equipment to get kids started who didn't have equipment.
And now, Jennifer, that the sport is school sanctioned, how does the fundraising in 2026 and beyond, how will that impact the team beyond now having some funding from the school district, from the athletic department?
There is, so the high school program, it covers the head coaches, but it doesn't cover the assistant coaches. They still have to fundraise for things like senior night and for, if they want to subsidize their banquet. If they need something, they won't, the school does not pay for player equipment. So goalie equipment, face-off stick, D-poles, the more specialized player positions still have to be fundraised for by the teams. So the high school teams are still fundraising. And then us as the West Bloomfield Lacrosse, our overall goal is to try to help the programs, but mostly through focusing on the youth. We get kids excited earlier, and so then the kids are ready to be able to absorb the costs, or they've been able to spread it out over the years instead of just walking in and having to pay a bill for $850 to try a new sport.
And it really does go a long way to help provide these opportunities for these kids, because it could be the only sport that they play, it could be that only experience, but we know that playing athletics in your young age, whether it's youth athletics, teen athletics, recreational, high school sanctioned, whatever it is, it has such a great benefit for these kids. Jennifer, before we let you go, we know that the fundraising is so important for a sport like lacrosse. How can the community both embrace this team and participate in some of those fundraising efforts in the months ahead?
We have, for West Bloomfield Lacrosse, we usually have a euchre tournament as well as a bowling fundraiser. We've got a couple other things in the works, like working on a raffle. The high school teams, the boys, I know I have a sponsorship program. You can buy their swag. You can make direct donations to the program. The girls program, same thing. They have their own fundraising apparatuses. And the other thing is, because we write grants for funding, our goal is we've came up with a fundraising. If somebody wants a grant from us, they can apply for those as well in the greater West Bloomfield area.
There's plenty of more information and ways to follow along with the team on the web as well, including on their official Instagram page. That is instagram.com/westbloomfield.lacrosse to follow the team all throughout the season. Jennifer, before we let you go, anything else that you'd like to say to the community? Let them know before we say goodbye about the lacrosse program, the fundraising efforts, the ways that this benefits our local high school kids.
Well, on June 2nd, we're in the process of scheduling a free try lacrosse event for 3rd through 9th graders. Come on out and give it a try. It's a lot of fun for boys and girls. We offer low-cost introduction to lacrosse programs over the summer and in the fall. When the kids join, they get their stick as part of the fees. And it's a lot of fun for them to start meeting their future teammates. We get the high school kids to come in and help us coach the younger kids, which is always fun, that bridge to watch the younger kids meet the high schoolers, because it's like meeting a rock star. You know, when you get to see them playing a game, you're like, hey, I know that kid. And that's kind of a fun thing that we are trying to bridge the gap between the youth and the high school players. Almost like a little brother, big brother kind of program. We have the high school boys is hosting a youth day on May 2nd at the West Bloomfield Athletic Field. And I don't have all the details yet, but it's going to be a player meet and greet as well as some goodies for the kids.
Yeah, something to keep on your calendars for an opportunity for your younger kids to meet some of the high school athletes, maybe get introduced to lacrosse, and of course, those fundraising opportunities always available. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us and telling us more about our lacrosse teams.
Thank you.
It's an exciting sport with so much appeal and so many benefits. We appreciate Jennifer for taking the time to talk with us here on the Splash Live all about lacrosse. The West Bloomfield Township Public Library is expanding its reach beyond its physical branches with a newly introduced community outreach van. A van named Fran. Designed as a mobile extension of the library, Fran the Library Van brings books, resources, and services directly into neighborhoods and community spaces. Victoria Edwards, the Marketing and Communications Specialist with the West Bloomfield Township Public Library, recently joined us on the Splash Live to tell us more.
Victoria, thanks for coming on the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Glad to have you on as we talk about this new program with West Bloomfield Library that's taking them on the road, all those services, those books, those programs, the resources that people seek from the two branches. Now it may be coming a little bit closer to them. Tell us a little bit about how this van will only expand the library's reach in greater West Bloomfield.
Yeah, so we've been for a few years now really ramping up our presence beyond the library's building. Obviously, we've got two branches and we do a lot of programming, a lot of collections here, but not everybody has easy access to the library all the time. So we've expanded our outreach over the last few years, and the van is really going to help us continue in that expansion and make it easier for our staff to bring the library to the community and make it more visible when we're out in the community. So Fran, as we're calling her, is our new outreach van, and we're really excited to be able to have a vehicle that we can more easily take more library materials out into the community with.
And Victoria, I don't want to call you out on this. You said that we're calling her Fran the van, but it's not the library that named her. It was the people in the community. How exciting was that to get that level of involvement and quite a lot of debate too about what this van should be named?
Yes, it was really fun to be part of this campaign. So we had staff members first submit ideas for names for the van. We had, among staff members, actually submitted like 40 plus names. We had to narrow that list down because there were just too many options to choose from. And there were a lot of really good options from that list. So it was a really difficult task for me. But we narrowed the list down to about 5 names and had our community select from those 5 names and pick what their favorites were. It was a pretty tight contest between Fran and we also had Van Gogh was a very popular name. And ultimately, Fran was the winner. We're calling her Fran the Library Van. And it's short for Fueling Reading Across Neighborhoods. So that's Fran's little introduction, but she's got her own personality and she's really coming into herself over the last couple of weeks. So we're excited for the community to get to know her a little better.
You can see Fran the Library Van on your screen if you're watching us on civiccentertv.com. If not, come back around later on or visit the library's Facebook page at West Bloom LIB to see even more about Fran the Library Van. Victoria, what sort of services can people expect to be mobile throughout our community with Fran the Library Van?
Yeah, so Fran is going to be used to enable us to be more efficient with some of our existing library services. So right now, our home delivery service, we do deliver library materials that we bring to senior living facilities, and we'll bring our programming and library materials to the schools at times as well. So you'll be able to see when the library is present at some of those off-site locations and some of our community partners. We also are going to be getting ready for summer. So we have a lot of off-site programs that we've been doing these last few summers at different parks and really all across the community. So Fran is going to have a presence at those off-site events. Her first outing is going to be at a pop-up at Bloomer Park on May 19th. Her first official outing. She's had a couple soft outings here and there, but take her first in. And then we're going to have Fran available also. The biggest thing is summer reading kickoff. We're getting ready to go with summer. I think everyone is ready for a change of season here. So June 6th, we'll have Fran the Van at our summer reading kickoff just to be a sort of a mascot and a presence for people to see that new library extension.
It won't be long until we see Fran the Library Van all throughout the greater West Bloomfield community. But that's going to do it for us today here on the Splash Live. Big thank you to all of our guests and for everybody on the Splash Live team for helping to make this show possible. I've been your host, Jake Schaff, live, local, social. It's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV.